Did Baker Mayfield just have the best game of his entire career? Or is he the best quarterback in the entire NFL right now? These are questions that I ask myself every Buccaneer game. Baker goes toe-to-toe with former teammate and cast-off Sam Darnold in one of the wildest QB offensive battles that you will see all year. If you stick around, you will get a fast, no-fluff, full recap of the Bucs' 38-35 walk-off against Seattle, the key turning points and every meaningful stat that you might not know about, and my analysis of both QBs and both defenses, and what this game tells us about both teams moving forward. Lavonte David intercepts Sam Darnold with 58 seconds left after Antoine Winfield's pressure and a tip off of Logan Hall's helmet. The Bucs start at the Seattle 36, milk the clock, and Chase McLaughlin drills a 39-yard walk-off field goal again. But remember, 1 minute earlier, Baker Mayfield ties the game on an 11-yard TD to Sterling Shepard with 1:08 left. And that flip, tie, takeaway, walk-off is why Baker Mayfield might be the best player in the entire QB conversation right now. This Tampa Bay Buccaneer team has an attitude and a calm confidence that I haven't seen from a team in a very long time, if not ever. When they initially scored with Shepard, I thought, did they score too early? But what we have seen week after week is that the Bucs are masters at situational football and being in the right place at the right time. Their game management, pretty exceptional, and we've got to give Todd Bowles a ton of credit for cleaning up a lot of the details that he missed last year and that you do not typically see defensive head coaches excel on. And so these are the stats that tell the story. Baker Mayfield, 29 of 33 for 88% completion, 379 yards, 2 TDs. Sam Darnold, 28 for 33, 341 yards, 4 TDs until the interception. Both QBs made pretty cool history, threw for 325 plus yards and completed over 80% of their passes in the same game. And remember, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 7 for 11 on third down, and that is how you continue to be an elite football team in this league. Rachaad White, filling in for Bucky Irving, although he had just 56 rushing yards, he got the 2 TDs and 3 huge carries on the final drive. Seattle's defense allowed 38 points after giving up only an average of 16.8 per game in previous weeks, ranked second in the NFL, and had only 1 sack all day, and it came in the fourth quarter. The Bucs are now 4-1, Seattle is 3-2, and the Seahawks, who at one point looked like the best team in the division, are right in the thick of it, of the NFC West that they could have been pulling away from. The Bucs seem to be firmly in the driver's seat in the NFC South, even though Carolina and the Saints got 2 decently convincing wins today. Listen, the offense always sells the tickets, but the defense writes the ending, and so we're hopping into some deep analysis of that right now. Let's go one level deeper and what happened on both sides of the ball to create a 73-point game and how the Bucs still found the one stop that mattered. Defensive availability and attrition was the story coming into this game. Seattle entered shorthanded with Witherspoon and Julian Love being out, losing Derek Hall to an oblique injury, and Reek Woolen was in concussion protocol. And this really tested Seattle's depth and altered many matchups throughout the entire afternoon. The Buccaneers have been dealing with this for weeks. They were dealing with it today, but we're still able to come out on top. So for Seattle, their pass rush didn't really affect much of Baker's timing. He looked pretty comfortable most of the entire game. He's one of the best players in the pocket and a world-class scrambler, and they only got to him one time. With fewer edge wins, Baker kept plays alive and continued to keep his eyes downfield and extended these downs in a way that he consistently continues to do week after week. And I'm not sure he's getting enough of the credit that he really deserves. Seattle left major voids on crossers and seams, and the middle of the field was stressed by Tampa's layered routes and scramble drill rules. Once the backups rotated in for Seattle, spacing/handoff issues in zone and match showed up massively. One of Seattle's blogs is saying that there was almost no defense in the middle, and Tampa scored 7 touchdowns in 10 possessions. The 7 for 11 on third down brings into question Mike McDonald's play calling, and there were just way too many favorable down and distance looks and clean throwing windows for Mayfield. And it looks like McDonald is already taking responsibility, saying that he's got to do much better with the defensive game plan and execution. I think ultimately why things continued to snowball towards the end of the game, even though it looked pretty evenly matched, most of it was obviously the lack of depth, how thin they were at corner, and the rush couldn't get to Mayfield. So these guys were left out on an island, and you don't want your linebackers and safeties constantly being in chase mode, because that's how these high efficiency passing plays happen, even versus a unit that was considered top 2 or 3 in points allowed. Now for Tampa Bay's defense, this was by no means a dominating performance. Remember that Seattle also rattled off 5 straight TDs, and it felt like Bowles' defense has been on the ropes health-wise since week 1 with Jamel Dean, Izien, Benjamin Morrison, and they really had to lean into their bend then steal philosophy, which I really like. And if you aren't familiar with the bend then steal philosophy, this refers to Todd Bowles' evolution of the traditional bend but don't break philosophy, where the defense allows an opponent to gain yardage but stiffens in the red zone to prevent touchdowns, often creating timely turnovers. The bend phase of the strategy, the Bucs allow for shorter, quick gains by opposing offenses, and the ultimate goal is to force the offense into long sustained drives, which increases the likelihood of a mistake, such as a turnover, penalty, so on and so forth, which is what you ultimately saw after Seattle was operating pretty cleanly on offense most of the game. The Bucs continued to use this philosophy and just wear them down to the point where you saw that errant pass. And although Lavonte David looked a little washed throughout that game, missing some key tackles that you normally wouldn't see him miss, they ultimately did not break and get this interception that seals the game. A key part of the final drive formula against the Seahawks was Bowles dialed in pressure with Antoine Winfield, closing in on Darnold's throwing platform. Hall's helmet pop sends the ball high. Lavonte overlaps the window for the pick, and the classic Bowles simulate pressure, force a rush trajectory, rely on veteran eyes in the underneath window. It worked like clockwork. Seattle won versus Tampa's shallow quarter half looks by isolating seams and TD matchups, plus late Torrey Horton leverage in the red zone, and even good calls lose when the QB is hot and the DB room is as thin as the Buccaneers is, which is exactly why one late pressure swing was decisive. So in cases where we often see sometimes Bowles, he sends these pressures and there is an understandable trade-off. Tampa accepted the chunk plays mid-game for a chance to steal one possession late, and they did it. 2 Darnold interceptions on a day when he was lights out is the Bowles tax. You'll feast, but you'll also face a couple of trapdoor looks. And so what this means for both Tampa and Seattle defensively, for Tampa, their identity is situational thieves. They are living on late game stops and clutch performances on the opposite side of the field by Baker. The concern is going to always be the same. Secondary depth, we dealt with it last year, we're dealing with it again, but Bowles' pressure packages coupled with Antoine and Lavonte's veteran presence gives the Buccaneers some of the highest level defensive IQ that you're going to get in the entire league. For Seattle, a short-term fix is obviously a quick return of Love and Witherspoon, and if they can also get Reek back, and they need to juice the simulated pressures so that QBs like Baker can't hit a full field read without some type of consequence. And so I want to ask the question to Bucs fans: do we like the way that we are currently living? Are we enjoying this style of football? Can the Buccaneers continue to win the way that they have been? Do we feel like the bend then steal philosophy is the right way for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team to be using as their formula when they do go up against good teams? One can argue that this team should be 5-0. Do you need better coverage next week against the 49ers? And Seahawks fans, do you have the proper pass rush? Is this purely a health issue? Is there a schematic tweak that you can make, like McDonald says he is, for third down? Drop your takes. Can't wait to hear it. I will have a breakdown for the rest of week 5, most compelling storylines, things that we must discuss, things that we might have missed last week, but can't miss again and have to get some thoughts out about it. Please expect that later on this week. As always, appreciate you stopping by. I will see you next time.